Well, welcome here for the show. I actually want to turn that off. Welcome into the show tonight. It's the Dillan Show presented by Butch Butcherson, your host. Tonight's sponsors are God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. It's an alright night, actually. October 4th, 2024. Let's jump right into the news. Shall we jump right into the news? The new Joker movie. Pretty bad. This comes to by my surprise, to a lot of people because they liked the first one. I did not find the first one that enjoyable. I could not finish it. I tried to watch it twice, actually. Could not finish the movie. Just would have to turn it off because of really how cringe it was, and just I don't know. If you wanna, I get the whole the movie's showing about mental health, but that's retarded. Like, who do you know that has that kind of mental health? I think everyone's a little retarded on that one. First movie sucked. Second one was a big not good. All right, moving on. Possible World War III incoming. Yes, the Lebanese and the Jewies are fighting with each other, sending some missiles back and forth. Although I would say I don't think it's anything to be actually worried about, because this is all scripted. All of this was written long ago. Very long ago, actually. Let's just go right to the 1800s. We'll read a little quote from our friend, not a good friend though, Albert Pike. Mr. Pike was, well, not the best guy, but he was what you would call the most infamous Freemason to have ever walked the earth, possibly, maybe behind George Washington or Napoleon or something like that. But Mr. Albert Pike, he, in the 1871, actually, or it could have been 1898, one of those times, he wrote a book. And in this book, before all of the world wars, he predicted every single one of the world wars. The first one, this is Albert Pike's quote on the First World War that he gave before the First World War ever happened. Let's read it. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia, and of making that country a fortress of atheist communism. The divergences caused by the agentur, in parentheses agents, of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments, in order to weaken the religions. That'll get you talking all like that. Now, to go over his First World War quote. The Tsars did get overthrown in Russia. That did happen. Who did they get overthrown by? Lenin and the communists, basically. So that did happen. Brought in this atheistic communism. Divergences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. Well, we've all seen The Kingsman. No, I'm just kidding. British and Germany were definitely at each other, and if we know anything about the world, intelligence agencies start and probably end every single war for their own gain. Ooh. Excuse me. And at the end of the war, communism will be built in order to destroy the other governments in order to weaken the religions. I would say that's true. I mean, communism was definitely built from that, and you can see how communism has come to today and definitely weakened the religious aspect of a once religious, I'd say religiously perceived nation as of the United States of America. Definitely the communist liberal attitude has definitely weakened the religion. So I would say that his First World War look is pretty accurate. Let's give it an accurate for the Masonic motherfucker. I am very sorry about that, and we will bleep that out. This is a family friendly. Well, it's something like that. All right. Now, Mr. Pike, he was quite the bargaineer. As in, he did not just give us one quote of one World War. No. He also gave us a second for the World War II. Well, as for the Second World War. The Second World War, and I will read in accent just so you know it's not me. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascist and the political Zionist. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed, and that political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Well, there you have it, folks. Direct quote from Mr. Albert Pike himself. Yeah. Well, and so, I'd say it's just getting a little more accurate in this one. Funny how the further he goes in time, the more accurate he gets. But let's break this one down. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascist and the political Zionist. Well, fomented being, yeah, I would say so. The whole thing was about fascists wanting to be fascists and them, what do we really know? Do we really know? But the story we're told is obviously that, the fascists drove out the Jews who would be the Zionists in this equation. But okay, first part, let's just call that true. I think that's pretty obvious. I'm over-explaining myself. This war must also be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed, and that political Zionism is strong enough to institute a sovereign state in Israel. Well, that definitely happened. And if you say like, oh, well, there's Nazis down there. There's more Nazis in Ukraine than there are in America. Yeah. So, yeah, there's people who are, really just looking for attention. I mean, to say you're a Nazi is quite the stance. Like, okay, do you, but you're not, it's actually, you lose a lot of friends. You lose a lot of friends when you first come out of that closet. But hey, you might find some new ones along the way, I can't deny the brotherhood. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. That's deplorable, and that will all be bleeped out, and I'm just distraught about that comment. All right, the last part of that we're going to go over on the Second World War. Communism must be strong enough to balance Christendom, which will then be restrained and held in check until the time which we need it for the final social cataclysm. Well, I mean, Communism has definitely grown since then. Fought a few wars about it. Vietnam, Uh, yeah. So I would definitely say that in. I mean, does Christendom even. Christendom? I mean, what is that even equivalating? Are they saying democracy is a Christendom? Well, yeah, communism, socialism definitely rivals democracy. But that being said, not every person who's a fan of democracy is a Christian. But Jesus Christ would promote a free way of living, so a free, fair way of living. If capitalism and it's not actually talking about capitalism though. Democracy. I don't know. We'll just say the opposite of communism. I mean, shit, we could try to define. Oh, we're gonna bleep that out. Try to define communism as well, but we're not going to. All right. And now, Mr. Pike, he just felt that he had more to say. He just didn't want to finish right there. And so he actually gave us a quote of the Third World War. And then you might say, well, I don't remember that. What is that? Which one was that? Newsflash. It hasn't happened yet. And it might be about to happen. This Third World War comment, and then we'll wrap this segment up. Third World War. This is Mr. Albert Pike. Of course, we do have actual audio of him saying this quote in the 1870s, possibly 90s, so we will play that audio now. It's a little scratchy, but beep. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused between the agency of the Illuminati, between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight, to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Beep. So that was that. He definitely a disturbing quote, Albert Einstein, E plus something equals something, we got some pretty, Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, we got some pretty down the middle Randy Newman, middle America breadbasket quotes here. But then, Mr. Pike, he really comes in and actually paints himself in a dark light, I would say, with this quote. Not to sound too judgmental of the guy. Donald Trump is a huge fan of him. In fact, he fought to get a Albert Pike Memorial put back up when one was torn down during the riots of whenever 2020, George Floyd, COVID, somewhere in there. And you know, who would have reverence for a guy who has quotes like that? Well, either someone who is ignorant of the quote, or, dare I say it, evil. But, hey, what are you going to do? All right, moving on. The government controlling the weather, question mark. Everybody's talking about it. It's trending, you know. But what do we really know next? All right, back after those messages. Government controlling the weather. Well, definitely certain theories being kicked around. I would say that weather control is actually old tech, dude. They're doing this stuff in the 60s, 70s, causing monsoons in countries so that we could defeat them in the wars. It's called cloud seeding. It's called HARP. It's called giant freaking fields of antennas in Alaska. And then it brings into question all of these giant 5G towers they've built with just stuff hanging off of it. I mean, they look like freaking trees. And they say, oh, they're supposed to look like trees. Oh, they did that on purpose. So it's just got just one giant antenna with 1,000 other little somethings coming off of it. Rays, antennas, solar panels. Yeah, panels was the word I'm looking for. And who knows what they're really for. I'll tell you one thing, though. My cell phone connection has not gotten any better. I don't think it has changed since 2017, 2016. I really don't think the speed of, LTE, 5G, it hasn't. If anything, our phones are better. They may load something faster, but you're not getting some, crazy 5G stuff that's worth putting up all these towers for. I would say the towers have some other reason. Now, when you look into HARP in Alaska, a giant weather controlling machine built into the earth, well, then you say, when was this built? 20, 30 years ago? Possibly 40, 50, who knows when it was actually built. I mean, the government will tell you when it was built, but who knows? So, begs into question. What are these towers that they have put geocentrically placed over all of the map of the USA and possibly the world? What are these towers? And is your cell phone faster? Alrighty, then we have a human interest story for our last story. This one is about a tragedy. Tragedy, actually. It was a tragedy. Haitian immigrant. I know they're getting a lot of flack right now, but this would actually happen, and this was interesting. A Haitian immigrant landed off of the shores of Pensacola, Florida on the 29th of September, 2024. Was said to be of the look of bloodthirst, bloodshot eyes, and all around bloody awful. But that was just the first look. Remember, never judge a book by its cover. It was actually a man who had been shipwrecked for 7 years. Believe it or not, 7 years. Somewhere in the ocean on an island. He finally had built a raft. And he decided to come on with it. So he came and he actually landed. Well, when he arrived on the shores of Pensacola, Florida, sad to say, he was spotted by Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz gunned him down right then and there, like any good American should. But it is an awful story of mistaken identity. He thought he was a savage and a barbarian, when in fact he was a man who hadn't had a proper meal in 9 years. Great man too. His family was definitely very happy to hear that he was alive for the split second before they told him he was subsequently gunned down. Though our hearts and our prayers are with the Haitian malnourished man and his probably malnourished family at this point. We would like to say, gotta close that border. Gotta close that thing. All right, moving on. And the good reason, not to, not to get too down. God is in control of everything. He's our great defender. He wouldn't be a shield if he wasn't watching over us. So don't let this world bring you down. Have a little fun. Have a few laughs. Do what you got to do. But yeah. All right. Now that brings us to our last segment of the night. This is a definitely a dear segment to my heart, something I've been working on for the past. It is called Basically the Basics, and what we're going to do in this segment is we're going to go over the basics. Basically we're going to go over the basics. So you have the basics. Basically, it's basically that. You have the basics, you go over the basics, you learn the basics. So basically, you have the basics of what, you may ask. Well, the basics of anything. Basically, you get the basics for anything you want, basically. That's basically it. Basically, the basics. And today, our topic, and I know this came requested. This came requested. General Patton's death. General Patton's death. Now, we know it's a turbulent time back then in World War II. And General Patton, if you don't know, he was a great American general. He was known for his tank leading skills. He was the head of the tanks. He was driving those Shermans all the way to Berlin. Well, Mr. Patton made it through the war, achieved great victories. Achieved great victories when the odds were not in his favor to achieve said victories. Lo and behold, to end the war, reach Berlin, kiss the German women, win the war. Well, he's then, I believe he was still over there, somewhere in Germany on a base, keeping a big eye over things. This was, I think, maybe 2 to 5 years after. I think it was right after the war, 1946. But Mr. Patton was ran over by an army vehicle inside the base and died. And that is how General George Patton reached his final fate. And just to be sure on that, we will get the facts. We'll get the facts from our facts guy. Jamie, can you look that up? Jamie. Yeah. The one, yep. We're talking about right now, George. Yep, the Patton thing. Okay. Thank you. December 21st, 1945 was when he died. So, I mean, we were pretty much spot on. A little sooner than, but I'm talking subsequently right at the end of the war. Severely injured in an auto incident, he died in Germany 12 days later on December 21st, 1945. Patton's colorful image, hard driving personality, and success as a commander were at times overshadowed by his controversial public statements. Controversial statements! Controversial statements! What did the man say? Now, I don't know exactly what he said, but I can tell you what he said. He spoke against the coming New World Order. The coming of the end. And what happened? As we all know, folks, he was killed. He was killed. Now, more investigation will have to be done into Mr. Patton. This may be an ongoing thing, because we have to know the truth about what happened to one of our country, my country, United States of America's top generals of all time. And it just doesn't sit right that he made it through the war, such a bloody and awful war, to be ran down by a military vehicle. I would be willing to bet that whatever our intelligence agency of the time had some operatives at said army base, and I would be willing to bet that his death was a very, very studied and very premeditated ordeal. But all that and more on the next time. We'll get some more research going on. Jamie, we're going to get him working. We're going to get him working, folks. We're going to get him. He's got to learn how to type, but we're going to teach him that, and so we'll have more information in the next show. But for now, we want to say thank you. Thank you very much. This is Butch Butcherson signing off on the Dillan Show. And before we go, we just would like to say God bless you. God bless your families, and keep on going strong.